Secrets of Ancient Egypt. What secrets did our ancestors know that we don't today? Well, it turns out quite a few. From their knowledge of astronomy to their understanding of physics, ancient Egyptians were pretty advanced for their time. And they left behind a lot of clues about how they accomplished amazing things, like building pyramids and creating accurate maps of the night sky. All you have to do is know where to look. Join us as we uncover some of the most shocking facts about life in ancient Egypt. You won't believe what these people knew that we forgot until now. Did you know that ancient Egyptians kept pet dinosaurs? It might sound crazy, but there are plenty of artifacts from their time showing that they had some kind of relationship with certain types of animals. For example, in one temple dedicated to the god Set, archaeologists found a drawing of what appeared to be a dinosaur eating meat off a bone. This particular dino looks very similar to the Mosasaurus, an extinct species of marine reptile that lived during the Cretaceous period between 82 and 66 million years ago. They could grow up to 50 feet long and were thought to be among the largest creatures living at the time. The Mosasaurus was so impressive that people still talk about it today. But how did ancient Egyptians get their hands on one? There are two possibilities here. First, maybe they weren't actually dealing with a full-grown adult. Perhaps they had some kind of mini dino that stayed small enough to live alongside humans. Second, perhaps Egyptians captured this creature when it was just a hatchling or juvenile and raised it in captivity like any other animal. It's also possible that both scenarios are true. Ancient Egyptians may have bred miniature versions of dinosaurs specifically for their amusement, and they only got bigger because nobody intervened before adulthood. Either way, we don't really know how they managed to domesticate these huge beasts, but clearly someone knew what they were doing back then. Otherwise, why would such drawings exist? Could there be more evidence waiting to be discovered? Could ancient Egyptians read minds? In modern times, telepathy is considered a pseudoscience. However, many believe that it is real and just waiting for the scientific community to catch up. If this is true, then perhaps ancient Egyptians were already tapped into this power source. According to reports, several pharaohs had telepathic abilities, the best example being Pharaoh Akhenaten, who ruled from 1353 to 1336 BC. His unusual elongated skull shape suggests he was born with the trait. Unfortunately, much of what we know about him comes from biased sources, since many stories were written by those opposed to his rule. Still, historians agree that Akhenaten was the first Egyptian pharaoh to use the term WIA to describe himself, which roughly translates to, "I am he who knows." Some believe this refers to his telepathic powers, but no one can say for sure. After his death, telepathic abilities seemed to disappear until the next royal lineage came into power around 1,000 years later. Once again, the practice seems to have been hereditary, this time passed down through a bloodline of priest-kings known as the Amasis dynasty. Susenzai, a member of this dynasty, took the throne in 1047 BC and was known for having prophetic dreams and visions. He is also believed to have possessed powerful telepathic abilities. Was ancient Egyptian civilization the first true global civilization? According to experts, the term globalization typically refers to the process by which nations become increasingly interconnected. In other words, it's about bringing different parts of the world closer together through trade, communication, transportation, and cultural exchange. While this concept may seem relatively new, especially if you're thinking about how we are constantly connected online these days, globalization has been happening for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian civilization was likely the first to truly embrace globalization. After all, its borders were never firmly established, and it welcomed people from all over the world to settle within its territories. Also, while it never initiated large-scale wars against neighboring countries, it did engage in military conflicts with nearby settlements. When it fought, it was usually in self-defense. In fact, ancient Egyptians were some of the first to develop complex systems of government, law, and infrastructure that allowed them to flourish without fear of outside interference. They created organizations like the Royal Institute of Works that helped maintain public buildings and oversee construction projects. Plus, thanks to their system of writing, which emerged around 3000 BCE, they were able to keep detailed records about everything from taxes to land ownership rights. The development of paper also made it easier for citizens to access important information quickly. All this stuff paved the way for future civilizations and showed everyone else that peaceful coexistence was possible. Did ancient Egyptians understand physics better than we do? There are some people out there who believe that ancient Egyptians understood the laws of physics far better than we give them credit for. Take the pyramids, for example. These structures are so precise and accurate that it's hard to imagine how anyone could have built them without advanced technology. Of course, there are more reasonable explanations for how the pyramids were built. But what about all the other inventions and discoveries made by ancient Egyptians? For instance, they developed a type of crane used to lift heavy objects up high without any electricity or motors. How did they do it? One theory suggests that they used levers and pulleys to move massive stones around freely. Another idea proposes that they invented a type of roller skate that allowed workers to slide huge blocks of granite across the ground with relative ease. Then there's the fact that ancient Egyptians were likely the first people to ever make glass, more than 3,500 years before Europeans caught on. They achieved this by heating up sand on a flat stone slab using a primitive oven, then blowing air into it to form molten blobs. Afterwards, these blobs were shaped into useful items like cups, plates, jewelry, and decorations. We don't know exactly how ancient Egyptians learned these skills, but it makes you wonder if they knew something about physics that we've since forgotten. Did they discover principles of engineering and science that were lost throughout history? Maybe it's time we took another look at what these ancient cultures accomplished. Were ancient Egyptians immortal? If you ask some people, they might tell you that ancient Egyptians were immortal. That means they could live forever without getting sick or dying of old age. Of course, there isn't any real evidence to support this claim, but there are many myths and legends surrounding the subject. For example, according to ancient Egyptian mythology, there was a magical substance called the elixir of life that could grant immortality to anyone who consumed it. The problem is that we don't have much information about this supposed elixir. Even if it did exist, chances are only the pharaohs and high priests had access to its benefits, since they were already living comfortable lives without worrying too much about basic necessities like food or shelter. On top of that, ancient Egyptian beliefs about death were also very different from ours today. They didn't believe in an afterlife or heaven and hell, but instead saw death as simply another stage in the journey of life. Basically, death wasn't anything to be afraid of. So maybe when they say ancient Egyptians were immortal, they mean that they didn't fear death the way we do. Regardless, there's no denying that ancient Egyptian culture was fascinating. Their art, architecture, religion, and customs continue to amaze us today and provide valuable insights into how humans lived thousands of years ago. Who knows? Maybe one day soon we'll uncover even more secrets about ancient Egypt and learn more about this mysterious civilization once and for all. Thanks for watching. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and we'll see you next time.